If he believes zombies can exist.
Oh yeah.
If he believes what?
Or at least zombies can actually exist. Yeah.
How's it going?
Well, I mean,
So-
about the bath salts.
Greg and I, our article is called Secrets of the HIV Controller,
Zombies exist.
which is pretty cool because it was about specific patients who have had the HIV virus in their system for several years. However, the virus has never actually taken its toll on the body, so somehow their body's fighting it off, and well, now doctors are trying to figure out why. That way we can hopefully apply it to future patients so HIV won't be a problem anymore. A little bit about HIV. It's a sexually transmitted disease that stands for human immunodeficiency virus. H, human, it's because this virus can only be in humans. I, immunodeficiency. HIV weakens your immune system by destroying important cells that fight disease and infection. A deficient immune system can't protect you. V, for virus. A virus can only reproduce itself by taking over a cell in the body of its host. So here's a little bit of statistics of patients who've actually been infected with the HIV. The virus is becoming more and more of a problem, especially in America. And it's actually been proven that several patients will have come into contact with the virus at a very young age, and that the virus has been in their system for several years, and it could not take its toll until maybe later. So the first example it gave us was this guy named Bob Massey. I don't know if that's in the...
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, okay. Who, he's had the virus in his system for 16 years. However, it's never taking its toll. So doctors are trying to figure out why, like what's causing him to survive when everyone else, it's, leads to AIDS or something else. So with a breakthrough, there may be a possibility for curing HIV. So that's why they're trying to figure out what's causing this so that we can apply it to future patients who have HIV. The first hypothesis they came up with was that they had an excessive amount of killer T cells that will fight off the HIV virus. So they were figuring out whether they have an excessive amount or maybe their killer T cells are more powerful than the average human, which is why the virus has never actually taken the toll on the body. But as they went on, they did several studies on patients who have actually come into contact with AIDS from the virus, and it's shown that they as well may have an excessive amount of killer T cells. So basically it just proved like, okay, so this hypothesis is whack, it's not gonna work. So they came up with the second one, and they figured out that along with the helper T cells, combined with the killer T cells, they basically team up to fight off the virus itself. So this is leading to more questions because obviously it hasn't been fully proven, but I don't know, it's pretty interesting.
So right here we have exactly like my partner was saying, more questions onto why. So let me explain. So the T killer cells have large amounts of it in the body. Now, when the second hypothesis came about, they figured that the helper T cells recruit the killer T cells to try to destroy the HIV viruses to some extent, so that way the symptoms don't show it. Now, it doesn't destroy it in the sense like your body's cured, but just to suppress the symptoms of the HIV. However, the problems that the scientists are having now is actually to transmit that same code or that same process to other human beings. The process here is that they have a protein, a viral protein, that goes into gets the T killer cells and helper cells to actually activate it. And then they come down here for the elite controllers. These elite controllers are what the key to actually finding that process of suppressing the HIV symptoms. So, like my partner was saying, there was more people that they actually took a study on. And this is another patient that they had where they had the same symptoms as Bob Massey, and they figured that it was the SNP of the genetic code of a human. And based off this, they figured, okay, well, we just found a common theme that all these people that have the same symptoms as Bob Massey is that the genetic code is differently with the SNP. So now they're trying to figure out exactly what in the genetic code makes these symptoms not show up for patients. And that's where we come with the amino acids. Based off studies, they figured that the amino acids were the actual key to figuring out the suppression of HIV symptoms. And when they started taking this, they got to a point where they actually need more questions into it. So it's like you have a treasure map, and you get to one place, but then you find out there's another clue to where the treasure's hidden, and then another, until you actually reach the end. And this is how exactly they've been doing it for a while now. And now the place where they actually last stop is where they show that they're trying to get the elite controllers of each human to actually reproduce that same process of suppressing the symptoms of HIV. However, like I said, it's kind of hard to get the elite controllers, like the genetic code of a human, and then transfer that to another patient with the same exact symptoms and everything else, and how the body would react to it, etc., etc. So now they're at a standstill of how to actually get that elite code, the elite controller, to transmit that. But hopefully, if we actually figure out something along those lines with the elite controllers, then there is a possibility that HIV can be cured. Now, this is a recent study too, so be in mind that they're still processing this, and we may see a cure maybe in a couple of years. So hopefully, with all these new advancements and advancement in technology and everything else, and more patients actually showing healthier symptoms, we may actually find a cure for HIV. And these are the references, and that is it. Any questions? Joe?
So in the case of Bob, whatever his last name was.
Bob Massey?
That one. Yeah, so you said he has HIV, but his symptoms never showed up.
Yeah, so
So was he able to transmit HIV to other people? That is my
it
question.
wasn't told as particularly if he if he could spread it on. Usually that is the case with a lot of people. I'm not sure. All is said that when they conducted the experiment on him, he had this since like 1970 something.
Yeah, for 16 years.
1970 something, and when he didn't have to take any medicine or anything like that because the symptoms were there. And so it was more of like the HIV virus was a dormant state inside all these individuals, to the extent where the symptoms were like not there, and he was just a normal human being just passing on through.
I would assume that he could transfer it on to people because, like, he's been tested several times and he's 100%, like, he has the virus. Like,
So if he transfers it to his offspring, would his offspring also get a genetic marker? Would the offspring also have HIV, would it be dominant, or would they have active HIV?
See, we don't know because it never explained too much into that. It just focused on the individuals who had the actual symptoms of suppressing the HIV virus. It really didn't get into details like, okay, if this one person had several kids, would their offspring carry the same symptoms, etc., etc.
Ting was first.
Adam, Joe again.
So then why didn't this HIV evolve into AIDS?
So because they didn't show any of the symptoms, because there's certain symptoms that cause into AIDS. So like I was saying,
Well, symptoms doesn't make it evolve
Well, I
into
mean-
AIDS. In time, HIV naturally evolves into an actual
yeah,
immunodeficiency
well, that's what they're
syndrome.
figuring out is why it wasn't. And so that's what the several hypotheses, whatever.
hypothesis.
Anyways, what they were trying to assume was like, now they were saying that the helper T cells and the killer T cells were teaming up to basically fight off the virus so that wouldn't turn into AIDS. So that's what they were testing, is that, so hopefully we could find a way to apply what's going on in his body to everyone else who has the virus.
Yeah, like I was saying, like, so we go from here, there's a gap right here, HIV virus is right here, and then we go all of a sudden to the T killer cells. Now, or the T helper cells. The helper cell recruits the killer T cells to start taking out these viruses. We go over here to where the elite controllers are, and they start actually organizing everything together, which causes, not to progress to AIDS or anything. The big key is the T helper cells.
So the you guys mentioned that there was like a gene difference in them. Is that so? Is it that like he's just got something, a different gene that causes him to have more helper T cells? Is that what it is?
To what was explained to right here,
Yeah.
the patients all had a SMP.
Is that a gene?
Yeah,
Okay.
a certain gene where all of them had the, they're perfectly normal, no symptoms to the HIV, no AIDS at all. And so from that though, they figured that, like I said, more questions. So they figured it was the genetic code of the amino acids. From the amino acids, they figured out they pinpointed to the elite controllers. So the big key right now is that if they get the elite controllers to respond the same way to, say if I gave you a vaccination or something, this surgery, and you had HIV in you, the hypothesis is that those elite controllers that I gave to you would react to that and build more T helper cells, recruit the killer cells to like assassinate the virus. Joe, then Ting.
Okay, so I know there were some cases where some people are sort of immune to HIV, like descendants of people who had the bubonic plague. Right now they have a gene and they have a mutation that causes them not to get HIV.
Mm-hmm.
So I was wondering if the mutation they found in these people were specific to a certain group of people, let's say race, or migrated from a certain
There
region.
was, from what I was researching, because like this guy here and some other ones, it was races of all kinds. Well, that was just, who had them and everything. This is the sketch of statistics of who has HIV. And like a lot of people don't know they have HIV. But when I was researching who had the same symptoms as Bob Massey, it was all peoples of all kinds, because they had 200 case studies of the people not showing any symptoms of AIDS or the HIV symptoms at all. So with that, there's that
Are
possibility.
these people still alive?
Yes.
Okay.
Bob Massey is a politician and et
Oh.
cetera, et cetera. And a lot of these other peoples are still alive too.
I think I'm good questions now.
Anything?
One question, like, how did they figure out that he had AIDS? Because if it was a dormant, because what HIV, like, the symptoms of HIV is obviously a weak immune system, but by that you get more diseases.
What do you mean that he had AIDS? Who had it?
HIV.
Oh, you mean HIV?
Yeah, like, how did they find out that HIV? Because
So
I mean, it doesn't show like he's getting sick. So obviously his body is still responding to foreign pathogens.
But he still had the virus in him. It was like a dormant state.
They probably just tested him.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, in case of Bob, he got the HIV through the blood transfusion.
Yeah.
He was a hemophilia.
Oh, okay.
That's why, yeah, so he got the blood transfusion, then through that he got the HIV.
Oh.
Good thing is,
I know.
Hemophilia and HIV together are like in the same group.
But yeah, he's been through a lot. But
That's what I'm saying. Like with HIV, like you get more disease than usually with HIV and AIDS. You don't die of HIV and AIDS. You die of another disease.
yeah.
And like that's interesting that I was mentioned because like that's it's a pretty awful combination of.
Yeah, it is.
That's
Really
straight.
lucky
It's
that you did that.
and when the scientists actually noticed this, they were like shocked at first too, because there wasn't a breakthrough in HIV or AIDS for a while now, and when they started having all these cases from around the United States and other places, they just started noticing that, okay, helper cells are the key from where we go to the amino acids, to the genetic code, to the elite controllers.
Why do you think they don't look at the genetic coding for the virus? Why don't you think they don't look at what's different between that, a dormant HIV virus compared to an active virus that is legitimately like turning the immune system?
I wouldn't say like dormant. I've been saying that just because it hasn't been showing the symptoms. To the degree, it's still a working HIV virus. It's just suppressed in a way to where I literally describe it as being dormant, because it's not showing any of the progress to, hey, this virus is going to go all of a sudden to AIDS, or like the symptoms where I'm not feeling so well and everything else, to where like I'm now an HIV patient and I need help severely. So that's what I meant by being dormant.
So you're saying the virus is the same throughout every
It
single
is,
patient.
but
The only difference
It's not like the virus is weak or anything, it's the same virus, it's just something's going on in the human.
So
Yeah,
it's in
the
the
only-
immune system. The immune system is still fighting the HIV virus.
exactly.
And they're
It's
trying
not
to figure out what
continuing to
that
fight it.
is.
And which,
Yeah,
because of the T helper cells,
Yeah.
that's the key. When they noticed that the key T killer cells weren't, on progress, because that's what actually kills the virus, they noticed that the patients had large amount of T helper cells constructing the
Yeah.
T killer cells to, like, almost like a puppeteer to show, like, where to go and everything. And from that, then they started researching, okay, cool, now they genetic code, et cetera, amino acids, these must be the lead controllers. So, any more questions?